Good morning, everybody. It is 9:02 a.m., October 1st, 2021. I'm going to call the Grand County Budget Advisory Board meeting to order. Board members present: Angela Book, Kevin Walker, Quinn Hall, Zach Wachezek, myself, Chris Baird. Also present in the meeting at this time, we've got Mallory Nassau, Renee Baker, and Bill Jackson, as well as Bill Holt. First up, we've got approval of the minutes for September 17th. Does anybody have a motion to approve the minutes for September 17th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Right here with the second. Oh, I'll second. Yes.
All right, Angie seconds. Any corrections or comments? Okay, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of approving the September 17th minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes to approve September 17th minutes. Next up, we've got September 24th minutes, and I just sent out a corrected version this morning, just indicating that Angela Book is present at that meeting. Is there a motion to approve those corrected minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Angie Book seconds. Any corrections or discussion? Okay, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously to approve the September 24th minutes. And just a little caveat, my phone's been dropping out a couple of times already, and so if you can't hear me and I stop talking, then send a chat so I know that I'm not getting through. Okay, first up we've got our building official. Let me share my screen and get into the budgeting software. Okay, Bill, so the way we're doing this is really just zeroing in on any, changes from the prior year or anything that's notable. Do you want to just walk us through any points of interest that way?
Sure. The first change is going to be the subscriptions and memberships. We have ICC, we have the Utah chapter of ICC, and we have the Association of State Floodplain Managers that we have to be members of. Those memberships renew every year, but then there are certifications we have to renew for ASFPM and for ICC. ICC is every 3 years, ASFPM is every 2 years. So that number is going to change over the years. But
Okay.
You need to be members of those. I've added some to public noticing with the new CRS program. We have to do public outreach every year. So we'll be doing mailers or notifications in the papers and things like that. So I've added a little bit there. Travel has gone up a little bit just because travel goes up. Most of that comes back to us when Cole does his travel. He just got back from Pittsburgh. We will get reimbursed for a lot of that through the ICC because he's a member of the Emerging Leaders Council for ICC. So a lot of that money will come back into the budget, but we need it in there to just get the tickets and reserve rooms. The next two are the new vehicles that we're planning to do. I talked with Cody and he said that number might be a little bit smaller, but that's what they were wanting to plug in. Professional and technical, that's where I'm going to put iWorks. Chris, I think we talked about that. And I put in 3,500. My portion of it, I think, is 3,125 or something like that.
Okay.
The phones, we've got 2 phones, and I asked that Cole receive data. With COVID, he was using his phone quite a bit. He can get iWorks because it's cloud-based, which is our permit tracking software. So that's what that one is for. The other big one is going to be the schooling budget, and Chris, we talked about that. We're going to stop using the expense and revenue account for that contractor schooling. So there, I've added 9,000, which is about $3,000 a class. Of that, a lot will come back. It'll go through in the general fund. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah. And so we might make a different line item for that. So, you know, like, 'cause this is where you're actually doing the training.
Well, yeah, there's half and half. There's the original 2,000 for our schooling, for classes we have to take, and then there's the extra 9,000, 3,000 per class for the 3 contractor continuing education classes we put on. Some years it'll be less than the 9,000 if we can get a free class or a cheap instructor. But you know, the years we have electrical and plumbers need their certifications, we like to get the top-notch instructors.
Yeah. So just to explain for the board, in the past Diana set up a designated account. So we would, you know, take the revenue from these classes and the expense, you know, but the balance usually is, you know, I don't know, a few $100s or $1,000 or something. It's not really, in my opinion, you know, worth worrying about whether or not we're getting fully reimbursed for those classes. And so I think it's better, you know, and easier just to budget the expense out of the general fund, budget the revenue into the general fund, you know, and whatever the balance is no big deal in my opinion.
And traditionally, we do cover the cost of those classes with the entry fee we charge.
Yeah.
We can provide the class and lunch and breaks, get all our contractors in education that we're providing, so we're all in the same room. So if we get out to the field, there's a whole lot less arguing and headaches.
Yeah. So, you know, just try to keep that principle going as best you can. But, you know, if it's off by like a few $100s or whatever, I don't think it's a big deal. It's not worth even tracking, in my opinion. So that's why I'm switching it over. But I might make another line item in your budget and move it over to that, just to distinguish it from the training that you guys would receive as opposed to provide. But anyway, we'll just leave it like this for now. And then with regard to inventory, what are you planning on purchasing for inventory?
Talking with Matt, we need to get a new printer scanner and a new, I think it's a laptop and possibly 1 computer.
So that's not going to be enough for all that.
Yeah, I think we were planning on doing the printer and the laptop. I think we're doing the printer under this year's budget. I still have some money in there. And then the laptop next year. And then towards the end of the year, if there's still money in that line item, then he'd go ahead and order that computer.
All right, so is it possible for you did you get an email from Matt?
Yeah. Yeah, he actually wants to replace
a laptop's going to be $1,200 and a computer is going to be $1,000. So you're looking at $2,200 total if you're going to do a laptop and a desktop next year.
Yeah, I think we were
Can you-
planning on a laptop. Um,
So, is it possible for you to search that email up real quick or not? We can do it later.
Yeah, I can get back with you on that. I think he did say it was 1,200 for the laptop, but yeah, I think we're going to do the printer out of this year's budget. And
All right, so we're gonna have to come back to that one because, we'll just work off whatever Matt's replacement schedule is.
Okay.
For next year on that one. Because 1,000 wouldn't cover a laptop, I don't think. You could do a desktop. That's what he budgets for desktops.
okay, I'll
Okay.
double check and switch that out.
Then on miscellaneous services, what was that one? Inspector for Utah Chapter Conference.
So when we do the Utah chapter conference down in St. George in February, I like to take Cole. So Jeff Whitney comes back in and does a guest appearance to do inspections. He's still certified. 2 years ago when we went down, Barry with the city went down and we split that bill with the city. So Jeff covered both the city and the county for inspections for that. It's President's Day weekend, so it's only 4 days. I think he inspected 3 out of those 4 days.
Okay, so that's, I would call that professional and technical services. And so I think we should move it up into that line item. The auditors really don't like these miscellaneous designations. They're kind of wanting us to start being more descriptive. And so anytime you're hiring an outside individual via, contract situation for professional work, that's professional services.
Okay, do you want me to move that up or?
I'll move it up. So let's see, so it'll go 0 there, 4,000 there. I'm just gonna put in contract inspector. Let's see. So fuel costs are going to go up a bit next year, but looks like historically speaking.
Yeah, I don't think we use as much.
Ever.
We are going to be getting those new vehicles and they're going to be a whole lot more efficient. Between that and I'm typically in the office a whole lot more these days, where it used to be me and Cole were both out in the field, and Jeff was in the office. So there's a little bit less mileage there too. So I thought we'd squeeze a little bit out of that.
So then on equipment maintenance, you have 1,000. What's that for?
It was just a question as far as the new trucks. I didn't know if there were things that were going to be needed. Typically, we don't have a whole lot of equipment maintenance. That 1 year back in 19, Jeff's truck needed a whole lot of work. But with the new vehicles, I'm not sure which is going to be the servicing. So I didn't quite know what to put into that.
Well, hypothetically, the only thing we need to do on them is oil change. I think we should probably bump that down to 200.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's probably.
I wasn't quite sure what to put in there.
Yeah, because part of the savings with going to the enterprise leases also includes just dramatically reduced maintenance costs.
Sure.
So I would think that would cover, like any, especially in the first year, you probably wouldn't even need windshield wipers or anything, but we'll have something in there for oil change or whatever. Going over these other things, and then planning on doing some FEMA outreach.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little more?
When we did, well, so with the CRS program, one of the things that gets us those points to get our rating down is doing public outreach. So we'll be sending out mailers, kind of like we did after the flood. We have that list of all the properties that touch the special flood hazard area. So we'll be sending out information to them on why they should have flood insurance, different links to different FEMA publications, and kind of letting them know that we're here to answer questions and go out to their property and see how they can mitigate some of the flood damage within the rules. So that's part of that. And I think that I'm not positive, but I thought that cost us about $450 for that mailer we did after the flooding.
Okay.
So we figured 1,000, we can do 2 sets of mailers. One would be to the individuals that are affected by the special flood hazard area, and one would be to realtors, lenders, and insurance agents. We're trying to plan for next year to have FEMA come down and give a talk on the process. They're changing the way they rate homes. So I thought it'd be great to have them come down and explain that to our insurance agents and mortgage brokers, that those changes, I think there is still some confusion with the insurance companies on how to deal with it.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that's all the questions I have. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Bill?
I'm good.
Hey, Chris,
All right.
this isn't really a question for Bill. It's not specific, but I was curious, in the employee benefits line, how does that break down between health insurance and other benefits typically?
Well, let's see, I'm trying to think how I could show you. There's a big table.
Just a rough answer is fine.
So, well, I'm interested anyway to see if you could see this, but I'm going to click on this benefits cell, and we'll make a pop-up, and let me know if you can see the pop-up. A lot of times on Zoom, you can't see pop-ups. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not really going to scroll over because it would show all the employees' specific elections for benefits. But there's Utah retirement, and then there's the health benefits, and that's all broken out across the categories, and that would be, based on their election, whether it's traditional or high deductible plan, single party, 2-party, or family, and they all have their own specific costs. And then there's, just FICA and the other things, workers' comp. So that's all based on actuals. And, until we actually get our insurance health providers squared away for next year, I won't have that table populated accurately. So right now, just to kind of reiterate, and it'll be this way for a while, the salaries and benefits right now are just kind of a placeholder. They're pulled straight across from this year. But once we get all of our new benefits providers locked in for 2022, then I'll update the table that information pulls from. Renee and I will update all the employees with, all their specific elections, and it will automatically calculate the benefits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's helpful. Though I would be curious, just to know, like, what for the typical employee, what percentage of benefits is health insurance? Some kind of rough breakdown. But maybe sometime in the future.
It varies widely, and so
Or the county's total benefits, just add everybody's together, how much of that is,
Oh, yeah. So when we get to the end, we can see that pretty easily. But like I say, it varies a lot by employee. And the less somebody makes, the greater the proportion of their total costs are in benefits. Benefits do go up as salary goes up because some benefits are related percentage-wise to the salary, particularly the Utah retirement system. But some others are as well. The health benefits are not related to salary, but they're related to the election. And so, if somebody's on a traditional family plan, you'll be looking at $30,000 a year, whereas, a high deductible single is, 8 to 10. And so a lot of it just depends on which option is chosen too.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on to the next? I haven't really heard from John yet from the recorder's office. Let me just check if he put anything in. Don't see anything. I asked him to come over, and he might be coming. Let me check my email real quick to see if he sent me anything. I guess John doesn't do Zoom, so I asked him to just come over to my office. He may show up with his budget on paper. So 9:25, we're 1 minute away, I think, from when I scheduled John. So maybe we'll just wait a minute. And then also, Bill Jackson, I didn't schedule you for this meeting. I'm not sure if you're on for your own edification or we had a miscommunication.
No, Chris, I'm just working from home here and just thought I'd watch this a little bit and
Okay.
see how we're
Sure that
going, see how we're going this year.
Okay.
I'm hoping to present next Friday if I can get all my quotes in, but I got them guesstimated pretty good right now, but I'm hoping to tighten things up a little better.
Sounds good.
We all set, Chris?
Yep, we're good. I think, Bill, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'll get with Matt and if I have to, I'll go in and bump that number up, the $200 for that laptop.
Yeah, just, whatever the replacement schedule is, just put that number in, whether it's for a laptop and a desktop or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, he has me set for a desktop for myself, but it seems to be working fine. I know he doesn't like that answer, but I like to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I can get
yeah, I said the same thing to him, and then his retort was, that it causes him a lot more trouble, and there's potential security issues, etc. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
Talk with him about it.
Okay.
He doesn't like it when we don't follow the schedule.
Yeah, if he's adamant that you want to change it to that same schedule, then I'll bump it up to add the laptop and the desktop for next year.
Yeah, well, let's just budget whatever he asks for, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it next year.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill. All right, looks like Aubrey Davis also joined the meeting with the Children's Justice Center. Anyway, I'm not sure if we'll hear from John. Maybe we should just postpone. I'm gonna just table the recorder for now. Aubrey, are you ready to present your budget?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Okay, let me pull up your grant budget real quick and share that. So, well, while I'm doing this, Aubrey, you just want to explain where your funding comes from and the agreement we have with the Attorney General's office?
Yeah, I can do that. So the Children's Justice Center is in each county under the direction of the Attorney General's office and the Utah Children's Justice Center program. So under that agreement, the attorney, our funding comes specifically from a grant from, it's considered a grant, but it's legislative funding that goes through the Attorney General's office and then is committed to the county for that year. And so we run on, basically we run on a reimbursement system, which means every quarter we submit a reimbursement request to the state CJC program, who then sends it back through state finance. And then the county is reimbursed directly from the state. So our, because we work under this state finance contract, we actually run on a fiscal year and not an annual year. So I always actually submit my budget to the state in July. It's actually, I submit it in June, and then sometime between May and June, and then it goes into effect on July 1st. So at this point, we're already one quarter in. By the time we present the budget for the county, we're one quarter into the actual budget, and the amount of our budget is contingent on essentially the geographic area that we provide services to, and contingent on the number of interviews that are conducted within our center. So there will always be some flux as to what our budget is. And over the past 3 years, and since I've been the director, we have seen the budget go down because we're seeing interviews going down as well. That was a really long explanation, Chris, sorry.
No, that's all right. So with these grant-funded positions that run on a state fiscal year, I have to take these grants and translate them into a county budget. And oftentimes, you know, I just hypothesize that the second half of the calendar year is going to be reasonably similar to the first half. You know, we just have to anticipate that the grant will continue and be, you know, somewhat similar to the prior year. So there's a little bit of it's a little weird when we're trying to translate a fiscal year budget into a calendar year budget. And I haven't done that yet. I haven't translated this over into Castell Advantage yet. But this is more or less a self-contained budget. You want to speak to any additional revenue you might get, Aubrey, besides what you get from the state?
So typically every year we receive, we've received, I'll change my wording. In the past, we've received around $7,000 per year, per fiscal year from the National Children's Alliance. And that funding specifically comes from the Department of Justice, and it's granted to the National Children's Alliance, who then subgrants that funding to state chapters who are under and accredited centers of the National Children's Alliance. Going forward, that funding has changed, and we will no longer see that $7,000, which it's actually at the top of the budget under the director's salary. And the allowance of that grant is that it's specifically for personnel, and because we're considered because we cover Grand and San Juan County, and essentially we cover Grand all the way down to the Navajo Nation. We're considered obviously rural, but in addition to that, we have a hardship because of the geographic, the actual like miles within our geographic area and with the clientele that we see. And I don't off the top of my head know the specific percentage, but a significant part of the population is under the poverty line. So through the Department of Justice, they have changed how that funding is allocated to the National Children's Alliance. So going forward, we won't be receiving that $7,000. There are some efforts statewide within the state CJC program and within primarily actually just through the state CJC program to replace or supplement that funding going forward. But for right now, we do have that $7,000, which is why it is included in this budget. We also, you'll see on this budget that we have under VOCA, other federal funding, we do have a VISTA program like other programs in the county. And we do show that the benefits are paid through the VISTA program. But we don't actually pay that money, but we do show it on the budget because actually state finance has requested that we show that. So this previous year, we did receive a grant from the National Children's Alliance in the amount of $20,000 that allowed us to basically completely upgrade our recording system in the Grand Center, in the Grand facility. And I'm not sure if that funding will be available going forward, but that funding isn't specific to our actual day-to-day operations of the CJC.
Okay, and so you say that you got that for this fiscal year?
No, it was in fiscal year 21. So it doesn't show up on here, but it does because we've already spent that money and we already received, we'll be receiving that reimbursement from the National Children's Alliance in this fiscal year.
Okay, so, and that was a change from the original budget, right? Or was it included in the budget that we approved last year?
I believe that it was included in the budget last year, but I could go back and double check that. I should actually do that.
Yeah, because if you're going to have any, so I would assume that it was in this calendar year, right?
Yes, so we received the grant, I believe, in October. Or we received notification that we were awarded the grant in, I believe, October. And then the system upgrade occurred in May. So when we would have allocated the funding or had notice of the funding prior to the county annual budget process. But the money
Okay.
was
see.
spent in this fiscal year, or the money was spent in the previous fiscal year and awarded in the previous annual year.
Okay, we might need to, you and I might need to sit down and go over any amendments to the 2021 calendar year budget.
Okay.
And then if you, is it a scenario where you're gonna spend the money in calendar year 2021 and then being reimbursed in 2022? Or is it all gonna happen in the same calendar year?
So I believe the invoice was submitted in June and then paid in July. So
Okay.
that would have been in the previous fiscal year.
Okay, so yeah, I guess part of the trick for us is that we have to translate everything that you do into a calendar year.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to switch screens just to show your current year budget so we can take a look at it real quick.
Yeah.
So can you tell by looking at these revenues whether or not that was included or not in the budget? Doesn't really look like it to me. This is your budget here.
Yeah.
That
It was not included.
Okay. All right, so you and I will have to work on a budget amendment for 2021.
Okay.
So that, because if you bring in more money and spend more money, but we don't amend the budget, then we'll be out of compliance. You'll go over budget from our, accounting perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is, just the complexity of trying to do a calendar year budget on a fiscal year contract. A little mind bending, but we'll get it figured out.
It is. It is mind bending.
And then, like you say, there's some things that they want to show up on your budget, but for Grand County, all we need a budget for is the actual money that comes in and goes out.
Okay.
Our budget doesn't need to include the VISTA if that money doesn't get paid by Grand County.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll take a little bit of translation to convert your budget into what we need. And then it sounds like we'll also have to sit down and work on a 2021 amendment, which we can roll into our end of the year budget amendment. And that will be no big deal. We just have to figure out what it's gonna be. Let me switch back over.
And actually, I gave you the so we we didn't receive notification about that grant until February of 2021.
Okay.
So
That's fine. It's no big deal. We just have to remember to include it in our end of the year amendment so that we don't exceed your total budget. All right. And then is there anything of note in this new budget that we haven't discussed? Doesn't really look like it. It looks pretty similar to me. But oh, and one other question I had is, did you write in any type of cost of living adjustment for yourself?
I did not, because that's always, we don't put that in the state budget because that's something that is approved by the county. And so because each CJC is under a different county, when we submit the state budget, we're not certain if that's going to be approved by the county. And each county has a different COLA consideration. So if the county approves a county-wide COLA, then we would include that in the personnel under the director salary. But because the county budget timeline is different than our budget, I can't budget in advance under the assumption that the county is going to do a COLA.
Okay. So is there, what's the solution to that?
So it would basically be another amendment. If under the budget process, then the county does approve like a county-wide COLA, then I would go back in and change that under the state contract, or change it under the state reimbursement request.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds fine.
But
Okay.
so when I prepare my budget, when I prepare my budget for the state, I can't actually give myself a raise. In essence, like that's not at my discretion because I'm basically under the county. So in order to receive like any sort of raise, I would have to have county approval or supervisory approval in order to do that.
Gotcha. But you can file an amendment if we do a COLA for you.
Exactly.
Okay. Sounds good. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, Aubrey?
Yes, this, you'll see in the second column over under the state contract, there's a rollover one-time fund. And so, within our budget, if we don't spend the full amount of our budget, we do have the ability to, roll that over into the next fiscal year. And the state allows us to, maintain a rollover amount. I never know what my rollover amount is going to be until the end of the previous fiscal year. So this budget right now does not reflect the rollover funds that I carried over from fiscal year 2021, which is in effect about $7,000.
Okay, so that's another thing. Will you send me an email about that, or just so I can track it with your budget stuff? And then when I translate this budget over to the county budget, I'll need to include that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I can send you that documentation.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Aubrey?
I just had some very basic questions to confirm what I think I understood at the beginning. So there's no actual cost to the county for the children. I mean, the amount that goes out is equal to the amount that comes in these grants. Is that?
Well, right now it sounds like the amount coming in is a little bit more, and that was the carryover.
Okay.
Well, the
I-
carryover only comes in if we spend that carryover.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they spent the budget, but hypothetically, I suppose it's possible that something could happen where they'd need a little subsidy, but I don't think that that's happened for a long time. In the past, I've seen maybe 1,000 or 2,000 go over from the county.
Okay. And then you said your geographic area runs all the way down to the reservation, so includes a large chunk of San Juan County. But
Yes.
because this is all being paid via grants, that some kind of cost sharing with San Juan County wouldn't make any sense. It's fine that this is all going through Grant County.
Yeah, so we technically we have a satellite facility in San Juan County. So we provide my services as the director to maintain that satellite facility in terms of like being present for forensic interviews and other aspects of my position, facilitating the multidisciplinary team meetings and working with law enforcement in that area. But we don't have a full facility that's staffed full time. So at this point, we don't have any sort of cost share with San Juan County. I could, there's the potential for that in the future, but right now they provide the location of the facility and they provide all of the utilities for that facility. So essentially the only thing that we do is have the director be present at that facility when we do forensic interviews. We also have in the past, but not since COVID, facilitated a multidisciplinary team in Montezuma Creek. But that it's not disbanded, but it's essentially on hold until things shift significantly in Montezuma Creek and on down towards the reservation. So if you'll note on, I apologize. If you'll note, there's a pretty significant, I think it's $5,000 mileage reimbursement within this budget. And that basically covers, mileage in-state travel. So that covers my transportation costs.
Your dog's not liking it.
Sorry about that. That covers my mileage to and from San Juan County. So in theory, that covers, well, not in theory, in practice, that covers my mileage to and from San Juan County and down to Montezuma Creek as needed. And I typically, that varies. There are times when I go down to San Juan County twice a week or 3 times a week. And there are times when, I don't go down there for 2 weeks at a time. So I always factor in a higher amount of mileage reimbursement for that purpose.
Okay, thanks. And then the last question, did I understand correctly that these are mainly federal grants, which then go to the state and then the state sends it to the county, which eventually makes it to you, or is it a combination?
No, so the only funding, federal funding we receive is through, is that $7,000 through the National Children's Alliance. Everything else is through, allocated through the state legislature.
Okay.
So we run a state program.
Okay. Any other questions before we let Audrey go? Aubrey? Okay, thanks, Aubrey. I think that covers it for now. You and I will have to get together separately. After I do my first draft of translating this over to the county budget, then we can set up a Zoom meeting between us to just verify that I did it right. And
Okay.
also verify that we get a 2021 amendment drafted.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. You guys, what the heck was that? Huh?
All right. So still no John from the recorder's office. So Angela, are you ready to go over the Old Spanish Trail Arena budget?
I think I'm ready. As ready as it's going to be at this point.
All right. All right. Looks like you got a lot of good notes. That's good. I like notes.
Yeah. And I have my spreadsheets up here to go with everything detailed out. I do have a couple items listed twice because I didn't know for sure what accounts to put them in.
All right. Well, we can figure that out as we go here.
Okay.
And so, so it looks like you're thinking about moving Greg over to FLSA, exempt position.
Yeah. The reason for this is, one, it will save on overtime. We'll be able to eliminate the on-call altogether. And it will help me out just with the phones. Right now, I'm the only one taking the phones at night and on the weekends.
Okay. So anyway, we'll take that into consideration when we get closer to nailing down all the salary and benefits stuff. But yeah, let's move on to the other parts of the budget.
Okay.
You just want to walk us through.
Which one do you want to start with? So subscriptions and memberships. That 120 is usually just for the physical for the CDL license, and Greg won't need that until 2023. If we have another employee we hire on that needs it, it may arise, but at this point, I don't need it till 2023.
Okay.
Travel. So in travel, I have per diem.
Well, let's hold on. Let's talk about advertising a bit.
Okay. Good one. So advertising, the Travel Council usually pays for. I think we came up with that agreement in 2019. I'm not sure if that is still going to be okay or not, but that usually doesn't come out of my budget.
Yeah. So what? With regard to advertising, can you explain historically what that means and what you feel the need for advertising?
So we've been doing Moab Happenings. In Moab Happenings, it's a little insert about us, and then they also get a hold of me every month to find out what events are going on. And that's $25 a month. I put aside money for the Times Independent for the advisory board, any type of things I have to post as far as projects, things along those lines. I have $59.95 for the Traveling Horse, $35 for HorseTrip.com, $50 for Horse Motels, and then about $140 for our Facebook post. the booze post.
Okay, and so this is trying to, it sounds like mostly advertise the equestrian services.
Yes.
And do you feel like that's needed?
Yeah, because it's definitely the new thing that's going on for the rodeo circuit and people traveling with horses. There's apps that are out, and that's what people use to find out where they could stay for the night.
Okay, and then you don't, it doesn't look like you have a public notices line item, huh? Or is it not, or is it down further?
Nope. The public, are you talking about the Utah public notice?
No, just notices. You mentioned that you had some notices. So most
Yeah,
departments have a public notices, like if they need to advertise a job vacancy or any type of public notice like that.
Yeah, I just didn't chunk that in with the time independent for the 300.
And that's a part of this advertising?
Uh-huh.
All right, so will you remind me that we should probably create a public notices account for you and move that money over? Just remind me at some point. So you're looking then more like 700 for advertising and like 300 for public notices?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, now we can go to travel.
Okay, so for travel, I have per diem hotels, and this would be for a facility managers meeting that happens in the spring. And then we would also like to tour some of the other facilities just to see how they manage things, to facilitate their employees and things along those lines. I also have money set aside in here for a car rental, and I did that just in case the enterprise doesn't go through. So if we're going to get our trucks, I could take about $640 off of that.
And then, what's your discussion been like with Cody for the lease? I mean, we can really move forward on them as long as they're available, but it seems like there's been a real shortage of available vehicles.
He said beginning of the year for sure, and he's hoping for sooner, but he said beginning of the year. But that's what we were also told, beginning of this year. So I put it in there just in case, because none of our vehicles are going to make it anywhere.
And so, how come it didn't happen this year?
I just don't think they were available.
All right, well, can you check with Cody on that and get back with me, just so I know, just so I know what to expect, I guess, whether we just didn't move on it or if something wasn't available. I know that there has been an issue with availability, but one of the things that we've been doing, because it's difficult to know when they're going to be available, and then when they do become available, you have to jump on it, you know. And so we've been doing some pre-authorized enterprise lease schedules, just so that when they become available, we can move on it. And so I think that we should do that for you also. And
Okay.
if you could work with Cody to just draft up that pre-authorization, and it pre-authorizes it, you know, as long as it's within budget. So I guess, you know,
and I could take all that off.
yeah, I think I would rather plan on getting the enterprise lease, because we're going to have to do one or the other in the budget. And so if we're going to plan on the enterprise lease, then we should cancel out these car rentals.
Okay.
Is that okay? yeah, what we've got left is per diem and hotels.
And
How much-
I just asked on the per diem. I just did it, like 15 meals at $40. I didn't know what the actual per diem was.
Well, it depends, you know.
Yeah.
Some conferences provide meals already, and, you know, and if the conference cost includes meals, then, you know, we deduct that. But if they don't include meals, then obviously per diem applies.
And I know the managers meeting provides a meal, but the other facility tours would be us on our own going out.
Okay. That's no problem. So you're thinking of like 4 trips total?
It will be 2 trips. It will
Oh,
just be
gotcha. 2 trips, 2 people.
go up to see how Logan does their setup, because they have camping, rodeo grounds, more of what we have. See how they're zoned and set up.
Okay.
So it'll be 2 trips at 2 nights each trip.
Okay. All right, let's move on to office expenses and supplies. This is another one where we may have to break some stuff out and move it around, but can you go over what this $10,834 is comprised of?
Yeah, so the reason why there's such a big jump in this one is because I have computers listed out. And the computers are listed out on this line and in inventory. Our computer IT total comes to $4,750. And that
All right.
will be,
So, yeah, we are, you know, so anything that with the word supplies in it has to be consumables.
okay,
You know, things that get used up. And so
Okay.
we definitely need to move. Well, I'm just going to do that right now. So just give me a minute to do the math. And I'm going to go down to inventory.
and it's already in inventory, so you don't have to add it there.
Okay. All right. So I took that out of. Then the other thing, let me just fix
And
this.
Invit Pro is also listed there, and Invit Pro is also listed in, I think, professional services.
Yeah, and that's a better place for it. So I'm gonna.
So you could deduct another $980 out of there.
Okay. All right, then, is this inventory or are these supplies that's left, this 5104?
So office supplies, it will be my Emory Telecom bill, which comes to about $1,776 for the year. My
So
Frontier bill,
Okay, so any utilities need to go to utilities.
okay. This is just, this is where the clerk's office has just always had me put it to. But we can
Okay.
switch that.
So we'll list out again, so you say Emory,
Yeah, so Emory comes to $1,776.
1,000.
40.
Say that again?
$1,776.
Okay. What else?
And then Frontier, which is our long distance, which I think this is something Jana just, she gets one bill and she splits it up between all departments. So this usually averages about $312 a year.
Okay.
Wow, that dropped it down than last year. So the remainder that's left in here will be batteries, pens, toner, paper, laminating pouches, things
All
along
right,
those
so it's all legit supplies,
Yeah.
consumables.
Yep.
All right, let me do a little more math here.
Now I'm less than last year.
Well, we need to remember to recode also.
Okay.
So you're not really less. It's just moving money around to the accounts that they should be going to. So moving down to utilities, looks like we need to do some work on that one too. Let me just cut that and put it. Then do the math on this one. And so we'll revisit utilities here. Let's try to stay in order. If we start jumping around too much, we'll get confused.
Okay.
So equipment maintenance, let's talk about that one.
Okay, so this one, the big one for this to jump up so high is that backflow valve. And this project is, I know I've talked to you about it before, it's quite the nightmare. Really the only person that even is willing to touch this project for me right now is Riverside. And there's just a couple of different ways that it could be done. I know I went on vacation for a minute and now they're currently on vacation, but trying to get these black flow valves measured properly and ordered, and then plus with suppliers, some are working, some aren't working. It's a very difficult project, but I'm thinking that this project, from what he's been telling me, is going to be around the $25,000 to $30,000 range. The way he's going, I went ahead and just put in $25,000 for that. And then it also includes Moab Heat and Cool coming out doing regular services, State Fire coming out and doing their regular inspections and services, and then it also includes tires for several vehicles. I need tractor tires, our UTVs need tires, our dump trailers need tires. We're keeping our F-250, that needs tires. And then it also includes our teeth for our implements. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different implements that all require teeth, and they're all made out of steel. So steel's went up a little bit. And then it includes clutch work for one of the tractors, and it also includes clutch work and possible transmission work for one of the UTVs. I do have some money set aside this year for clutch work on the tractor, but it requires the tractor being torn in half, and it's really time consuming. I spoke to Cody about this. We're going to try getting it done this year, but the way staff are, and time, running out of time, I don't know if it's going to happen. So I didn't want to not have the money for it, so I put it on the budget.
Okay, so one thing I'll need you to do for this one is just create another little attached worksheet and itemize all those things. And
Okay.
then you and I will also have to work on a budget amendment, a year-end budget amendment. And so if we get closer to the end of the year and you know that it either will or won't happen in 2021, that clutch for the tractor or anything else, we'll need to sort out which budget it's going to be in, 2021 or 2022.
Okay.
And so take a note of that too and remind me also of that. And, come back in also and just itemize this out for me, please.
Okay.
So one other thing, and just an explanation too for the board. The rec district has historically provided some maintenance and operation money and some project money. When the ball fields were built, the rec district, I believe, said, they'll continue to do M&O on the arena itself, but not the ball fields. So I got that right, Angie?
Yeah.
And so that's why we had to break out M&O between ball fields and arena, because the rec district wouldn't pay anything on the ball fields. They'd only pay on the arena. And so that's why we're seeing these multiple accounts that seem to be duplicative, but they just make it easier on us when we send an invoice to the rec district, that the clerk's office can just run the invoice off one account without having to determine which is which. So that's just an explanation for why there's multiple accounts that seem to cover the same thing.
And we try really hard to keep everything separate. I separate all the invoices. I separate all the materials. I try to even everything out. It takes more time, but that's why I do that.
Okay. And then so the next equipment maintenance line for ball fields, that's $1,700. That's for UTV repairs.
Yeah, so that jumps up because we have two UTVs. We have a Kawasaki and we have a Yamaha. The Yamaha is also having problems. It's burning oil, and its low range does not work. So it needs work. I talked to Cody about it, and I'm going to try getting it up there next week to see what materials it's actually going to need. So I budgeted in about $1,000 for it. But honestly, the way it rides, it already has had a new engine put into it. We should just look into replacing it. Those are my thoughts. It's pretty rough. But that budget also includes blades and belts for lawnmowers, oil and filters, fluid changes, and then mule needs new mirrors. It's about $200 because it's an aftermarket thing.
Okay. All right, moving on to building grounds and maintenance, and this one for the arena, right? This first one.
Yeah. So this list is really long. I think I have everything listed out just as far as maintenance stuff on a spreadsheet. I think I have 152 lines of just stuff that needs to be done around here. We go through the big stuff here. So I need to add steel to a couple places just for safety reasons. Steel's expensive. But it's just a lot of maintenance stuff. Weed control, Roundup's really expensive. Some new hydrants have to be replaced. Road base to the parking lot areas. Arena dirt, I'm going to try buying that this year. they're trying to get our formula right. Electrical outlets, they need some work. The list is really long. Everything that needs.
So, yeah, I mean, depending on how the bottom line shanks out, you know, some of this stuff we might have to prioritize. I can't really say for sure yet. You know, I want to stay on top of maintenance for sure. But when we get near the end of these budget sessions, you know, if it looks like we need to request cuts, you know, then we might have to prioritize some of these things.
Okay.
But there's nothing in that one that's duplicative in another line item. It's all.
Oh, this is just all arena maintenance stuff. I mean, this includes paint, flex. This is everything from our shovels to light fixtures, electrical outlets. This has everything on it.
Okay. And then moving on to the same line item for the ball fields.
The ball fields one bumped up a little bit just because I tried to make it more of a realistic number for what we do spend out there and what I've spent already this year. Our water line breaks are definitely consuming. The sprinklers are pricey. And those are just, those sprinkler heads, you know, they've been in since 2013. They're coming up on, you know, they wear out, and they're about, depending on which ones they are, they could be between $30 to $50 a head. We lost a couple trees in the last windstorm. We would like to replace the trees. Fertilizer, I did cut the fertilizer price down by $2,000. I changed what we used this year, and I added a Humate product, which is a water conditioner, to the grass, which you guys will see that it saved us in water usage a lot. I think it's really helped the grass. So I have been able to cut the fertilizer amount down by $2,000, but I did make it more realistic numbers as far as supplies that I have to buy. And also the slip fixes that I need to fix from the water line breaks.
Okay. I mean, we've had a lot of water line breaks, and yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that's happening. I don't know. You're probably not either, are you?
Well, I have my speculations. I'm thinking it's either bad glue, because all these water breaks are right at joints. They're not in like a center of a pipe. They're all at joint lines, and it's right where the glue is. So I'm thinking it's either bad glue from the initial installation, or hammering is happening somewhere, and it's a pin-sized hole that's causing all these problems.
Yeah, we might need somebody to look at it. I mean, there's probably somebody that can identify, just looking at the damage, you know, what might be causing it. Because if you've got some valves that are closing too fast, if they close too fast, all the inertia that's in the lines from the water makes a huge, you know, pressure spike. And so, you know, any valve that shuts off really shouldn't be, you know, like an instantaneous solenoid, I don't think. It really needs to be kind of more of like a slow taper off. Otherwise, all that inertia in the line is just going to, you know, blast your joints apart.
Yeah.
So
and I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but it seems like every time groundwater has a problem in Sanish Valley, we follow right in suit with them.
So do you have any kind of pressure gauges that monitor pressure?
Oh, yeah, we have all kinds of gauges. We have a pressure release valve. We have gauges on our filters.
But are they do they tie in with any kind of data tracker?
No. And
All
I
right.
would love that. I would love type of alarm that lets me know when getting too high, too low, because
Yeah, well, so we have them move the pressure reducing valve downstream from us, right?
yeah, it's at the north end of the property by Spanish Valley.
But it's their new pressure, that new one is after us, right? Because we were having low water pressure, am I remembering right?
Yeah.
So it's possible that now that pressure reducing valve is downstream from us on the secondary pressurized line, that we're having pressure regulation issues. And I think the only way to identify that would be to have some kind of pressure gauge that tracks the pressures. We can't have just an employee sitting out there looking at it all the time.
We do. We check it every morning.
Well, I know, but if it's
when I leave.
spiked, just for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's just another thing to try to figure out why these water lines are breaking so much. I don't know. Maybe it was just, they weren't put together right, but maybe there's other issues too. Pressure, water hammering, I don't know what. But anyway, we don't need to go on and on about this. But again, might have to prioritize some of these things if the bottom line shows that we don't, that we need to make cuts. We'll see.
Okay.
All right. On utilities, didn't put anything in. Is this, are you still evaluating that, or?
So it's the next line down. So there's utilities,
I see.
and there's utility arena, and then there's utility ball fields. And
Okay.
that 29 arena utilities, and then the ball fields is the 81.
I'm not seeing that. What you've got, unless I accidentally erased it, on 10/45/11/270, there's nothing entered.
Yeah, that should be the 29/8/16. It's just down one line.
This one? Oh,
Yep.
So this one's just on the wrong line, or is it?
Yep. That's the arena utilities.
So the arena utilities have been getting miscoded?
No, it gets the 270. I just put it on the wrong line.
Oh, I gotcha. Then I think we should recode Emory and Frontier into there.
Okay.
So let me do that. All right. So yeah, the 29/8/16 is a little bit of an increase, but of course, they tend to go up. We did see a pretty substantial drop in the past. We switched over to LEDs, and that actually did save quite a bit of money. And especially because those old fluorescents are real hard start, and the power companies will bill us on the peak demand, and so, not only do LEDs use less energy cumulatively, but they draw less energy to start up, which is one of the big things that saved us money. So this line item actually dropped down. I can't remember when we did that, maybe 2017, 2018. Do you remember, Angie?
It would have been 2017, I think. And
Bracket. 2017. So yeah, we went from like 31,485 down to 25,751. Then again down to 19,685. So it's been climbing, kind of dropped down to about 20,000 and then started coming back up again, just, you know, with increases in utility rates and usage. But we did see a big savings in utilities from that LED changeover.
Yeah, and you know, the more events we have, it's going to go up, and especially I'm going off of our bills this year. We had a lot of usage this year with the fire being here, but I do have a pretty full event schedule for 2022, so I didn't really make too many adjustments. And Team Rubicon, they plan on coming. Also, my meetings start with them in about 2 weeks to start planning their arrival. So I didn't want to adjust the utilities down too much.
Yeah. And that also reminds me, and another thing to put in your notes is we need to discuss the reimbursement from the, I guess it would be the Forest Service.
Yeah, I've already submitted that, and that should be coming back, but that will put, I think we might have to do an amendment for just a little bit for 26300, which will be the ball fields maintenance. I think that account's going to be a little bit over this year.
Okay, so.
But we should be receiving that payment anytime from them.
Okay, so add that to the list of things we're going to need to do for our 2021 budget amendment.
Okay.
Because we'll have to bring the revenue in and then also account for the added expense. So we'll need to do it on both sides. And so, okay, and then moving on to the ball field utilities. So 2019, which was, you know, our last sort of normal year, we hit 8851. And it was high. It dropped down quite a bit actually in 2019 from where it was in the past. I don't know if that's a coding change or what, but
It's because the ball field lights have been off. If I could keep those lights on the ball field off, we save money.
yeah. Okay. So you feel like this 8166 is going to cover you?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's historically lower. That's good. Okay, so then on lease, we've got, so this would be both enterprise and our secondary water lease from the cemetery.
Yeah, and I took the numbers from what you had last year for the enterprise lease. Those are the only numbers I had.
All right, well, we'll have to check with Cody. I mean, I know that their administrative fees are going to go up a little bit. Hopefully the cost of the lease schedules stay relatively close.
Okay.
Okay.
And if the grass keeps going the way it's going in our water usage, we're not going to need that. We have not used any water from the cemetery this year. So if it keeps going this way, we might be able to look at dropping that lease. I don't know if it's something we want to hold on to just in case.
Well, probably it's not. It's only $600, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's
It's
for a
a
whole
good
year.
security net to have just in case, but we've done pretty good on water.
All right. So moving on to fuel, I mean, I realize there's an increase How much did you
Got-
say, about 15% increase?
A 15% increase. So that would put diesel at $3.04 a gallon and gas at $3.82 a gallon.
But you're
Sounds
still,
smart. It goes up. I don't see us using that much, but when I put it all in here and do the math, it totals up to that. So,
well, it's
That's
way out
fine.
of whack though with past. So, we've got 3,100 in 2016, 4,200 in 2017, 3,100 in 2018, 4,000 2019. So, I'm having a hard time with that increase. That seems.
no, I get it. If we're fully staffed and we're all working and moving around, our gas will be more. Gas stays that high. I don't know. It's something maybe we could bring back to the table if we're really using it. But when I did the math, it came out high to me too. But I wanted to put it out there. But even right now, I haven't used that much. Right now on fuel, I think still have just over $2,100 in my. I only used half of my budget this year on fuel.
Yeah.
So I don't see us using that much money.
Well, to cover the jump in fuel costs, I think 6,000 would cover it myself.
And I'm okay with that. That's the number I was thinking too.
That's, I think, that'd easily cover it, even with the fuel increase. So, we can address it if it starts going over, but I think that's going to be good.
Okay.
Professional and technical, so this would be where we moved over we got your event software.
Yeah.
And that's just all event software. Okay, then on to cell phone.
So the cell phone is it just the director that gets the higher rate, or if Greg goes to salary, can he also get the additional?
Well, that's not the criteria really. The criteria, is so if you expect somebody to use their phone just for calling, then it's $60. But if you expect somebody to need to use their phone for both calling and checking email and accessing the internet, then it's $90. But it all comes down to what is the need? Does Greg need to, or any employee for that matter? It's not really related to, whether they're a supervisor or not. It's related to what they need to use their phone for to do their job.
That's what I need to answer. So I would just need him to be able to answer his phone and make phone calls.
All right. So Greg then is Renee on? Are you on, Renee? Anyway, I think it's $60 a month for just coverage for somebody that needs to.
I thought it was 40.
And then you're on data, right, Angie?
Yeah. So, and I budgeted in for an admin assistant to have a phone. I don't know if I really like the admin assistant to have a phone, because then what happens is that person always gets called and at all hours of the night. So then I have 3 employees always working. So I try to keep the admin assistant not having a phone. So I really only need a budget for myself with data and then Greg with telephone.
Okay, let me run the numbers on that.
Chris, I'm trying to remember from last week, we talked about this with Renee. It seems like it was 60 and 90 for the two different cell phone plans, but I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
60 and 90.
So that's adds up to 1,800. Looks to me like, you know, the current budget has 2 data plans. And I don't know, in past years, it looks to me like Greg's already must be getting 90.
Yeah, so Greg is getting, I thought he was getting 20 every 2 weeks. But maybe
Well,
he's
so the $2,040 that we paid out in 2020, that's 2 data plans. So that's 2 people, $90 a month.
And
that's
the
what
previous
got paid out.
budget included the admin, because when I was the coordinator and the admin, Steve had me getting a phone allowance. But
All right.
I don't want to repeat that pattern because then I have too many employees.
All right, so it's 1,800 then for one that's just for phone coverage, and then one for phone and data.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll set that. All right, let's see. Here's something weird, Quinn. There's a revenue amount installed maintenance. Is that a miscode, do you think, or did we get some kind of reimbursement or something?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm trying to pull up Cassell to look.
This is the one where there's that payroll problem that Renee brought up last time. So this obviously hasn't gotten fixed yet. And so there's some kind of payroll miscode that Renee's going to need to fix. So that's what that is. Okay. And then this is just cost of metal for doing repairs on the stalls.
Yeah.
All right.
Stall maintenance, vent prep. This is going up higher than years before because we have to rent a double drum roller from Grand Rail, and we usually rent it for $375. It went up to $550 every time we rent it. And in 2022, I will need to rent it 4 times. I do charge the customer for this rental. So we got hit on it this year, but I will change my fee schedule to reflect increase in that. So I will have a change in fee schedule at the end of the year for 2022.
All right. It looks like we haven't paid on that yet. Okay. But this is, most of this is going to get reimbursed through the fees, right?
Yeah. And then there's also an increase in, I think I just jumped ahead. I might have went to ball field. That one, it's just a double drum roller for the arena side.
Yeah, got that. And then next one, field paint, whiskers, marking for sprinklers.
Yeah, so the field paint and our little whiskers stakes that we use for the sprinklers, both of those have went up in price because aerosol cans there's something with manufacturers that they're really hard to get right now. And the plastic that's used for our markers are also used in the N95 mask.
Okay, so just a shortage, you're saying, of that, or
Yep.
And drove the price up.
Yep.
Okay. What kind of use are we getting from sports teams?
So right now I have soccer here 3 nights a week. They have about 2 soccer games. I have a soccer game every other week. Baseball's in the spring, spring, and they're here every day with a couple games a week.
Okay. Have you had any interaction with City Rec on any scheduling or other, enhanced use of those fields?
City Rec uses the fields for their T-ball. They did get cut short this year because of the fire, so they only got a couple weeks of use this year. The field because I had because of the fire, but they usually bring their littler guys out here, like the T-balls and the coach pitch.
Okay. And there's, is there any like adult sports interest?
We usually get the co-ed softball league in the winter.
In the winter. Okay. Moving on to work crew supplies.
So this account, this one holds everything, all our cleaning supplies, all our mops, brooms, things along those lines. It also is where I buy all of our PPE and the crews, like shirts, jackets. I get hats in the summertime for the ones that are outside to cover their ears. Safety gear. Let's see what else is on here. Ice melt is under this account. Work gloves. That is what is itemized underneath that account.
Okay, so
Bags.
there's an increase even over 2018 and 2019.
Yeah. And then 2020, I didn't really buy any supplies because I used COVID funding to buy all of our soap, toilet paper, disinfectant. I used a lot of COVID funding there to buy that stuff.
Okay, but let's look at it relative to 2018, 2019, just to cut out COVID out of the picture. What more, with regard to 2018, 2019 being around, averaging close to 4,500, what more do you think we'll be buying? Because it's almost, it's double that amount.
Yeah, so we have different staff, and not to be rude, I don't know how else to say this, but we are cleaning properly now, and we're actually using chemicals, and we're going through the chemicals.
Okay.
There's also safety vest on there. I need to get a couple safety vests for new employees.
Is there like a backlog of payments on this account? Because right now we're only at 1,771 year to date.
A backlog. So right now, work crew supplies, I show that I have a balance in that account of $2,800
Yet to be paid?
that I have left in it. I show that I have spent to date $2,900 with $1,400 still out.
Okay, so something must be off. Either the bills haven't been paid yet, or they got paid somewhere on a different account. Because right now we're only at 1,771 in Cassell.
Hold on, I could filter this down and I could tell you. So it looks like I have invoices back to August that have not cleared yet.
All right, well, I just want to
Yeah, Chris,
mark this.
I'm showing Cassell only 1237 in that account right now. That's been paid out.
Huh. I wonder what the discrepancy is here. Supplies.
I have an invoice. I clear my ledger report quite frequently, and the last thing that I have that. Wait, do you have?
Hey,
I should
I'm
go.
sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I was only running that through 7. That's why I had my period set for 7. So if I run it through 9, then Chris is that it's pulling correctly. 1771.19.
All right, well, I'm just gonna mark it, to take a look at. Because you're requesting is a little high to me, and I just wanna take a look at, let's track that, Quinn and Angie, and make sure that, or figure out what the discrepancy is between what Angie's expenditures are and the expenditures that are in the GL right now.
And it could be Chrissy's been out of town, so we didn't do a check run last Friday, and that could change it right there.
Yeah. Well, that's just figured out. But what I want to do is track it, actual usage, and project it out, And so, anyway, we'll come back to that later. I'll just
Right.
mark it to be revisited.
Angie, remind me to get with Chrissy on that one, and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
And then for the ball fields, similarly, pretty big increase in requests.
And it will be the same thing. It will be the toilet paper, garbage bags, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer.
I know, I get all that, but I just, if that's happening already this year, then it's not going to project out to 13/30 unless we're way behind on paying those invoices.
And for
We're only at $206 right now.
I show
Spent
that I
out
only
of
have
account.
$180 left.
What's that?
I show that I've already spent $205.
Yeah, so that's right. But I mean, it sounded to me like you guys are increasing. You've already increased your activity and your usage of supplies, but if so, that doesn't reflect in year-to-date actuals. So we're looking at, if we hit the budget this year, it's 3.5 times increase. That just seems
And you're comparing it to 2019?
Say that again?
You're comparing it to 2019?
No, I'm comparing it with this year. We're more than 3/4 of the way through the year, and you're only at $206.
And I didn't have to buy any supplies this year, because they were bought all on COVID funds.
All right.
So I stopped the year all on COVID funding. Between that and the fire, they actually left a lot of supplies for us. But if I had to do the supplies based on what events are coming in for next year, and that's how I did the budget, toilet paper and so on and so forth, this is what I would need. And that's splitting it up between the ball fields and the arena. And there's also new things on here that I'm buying that I haven't bought in previous years, like hand sanitizer and paper towels. Paper
Okay.
towels were installed in 2020. Paper towel dispensers.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna flag it, and before we finalize things, we might have to revisit some of this.
That's fine. I have it all line items out.
Okay. And then for 2021 amendments, we've got some expenses where there's no budget. Let's just go over what these are. Capital building improvements. 3,364. You know what those are?
They might total up. Is that my capital works funding?
So, well, we've got Turner Lumber, Standard Plumbing, Walker True Value, Turner Lumber. The big one's Turner Lumber for $3,157.
That's dated 8/9.
It's well, it got uploaded to the GL in September,
Just a second. I'll tell you what it is.
but there's no budget for it, so either that it was something that maybe should. Are you guys trying to just figure out?
I think so. This was actually in 2019. Might have been 2020. I need to go back and look at the years. We bought the fencing, the white vinyl fencing. Yeah, it would have been bought in 2019, and we were going to install it in 2020. But when COVID hit, our budget got cut, so we weren't able to buy the concrete to install the fence. And so we started putting it up this year because we were just going to use general arena maintenance funds for the concrete to get the fence installed, and we started putting it in, and we didn't have enough materials. And going back, trying to figure out what happened is I don't think it was measured correctly, and the person who ordered it only figured enough materials for a 1-rail fence and not a 3-rail fence. So I had to go back and buy more materials so we could finish that fence. So that's what that is.
So
and I was gonna,
were we working off of your capital allocation for that? Your capital budget, projects budget?
It was not planned. I was gonna, because there's things that were put in for capital works funding that can't be done.
No, but that's what I'm asking. So is that the budget that you're expecting to use for this?
Yes.
So what that's going to mean is that we're going to have to transfer the budget, this amount, out of the capital projects fund, Fund 34, and move the budget over here for 2021 to cover it. And then capital equipment, $13,939.
Yeah, Chris, and I'm looking at the receipt. It was 64 rails, 2 end posts, and 1 white post. Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got the fire. So this must have been, and then for this other one, capital equipment. Is this the recharge of the?
Yep. So that
All right.
880130, that's the recharge and the glycerin, and then the other 2 amounts are when they came back to fix the leaks.
All right, so it's the same thing. We're gonna have to move, because your capital projects budget is in Fund 34. But,
The girls in the office told me that that's where it had to go, was into that 730 account.
well, it's probably fine. I'm just saying we need to move the budget out of 34 and over to here.
Okay. So I have more stuff that I'm going to do in capital, and we can talk about this afterwards, so don't spend more time. But the rest of my capital works funding, I'm going to need moved over into those accounts also, because there's other things that I want to do before the end of the year.
All right. Well,
Because,
it kind of depends, but on what the expense is and whether it needs to be capitalized. I know the fence won't be capitalized because it's not even 5,000. The fire, the glycol recharge, probably not either because it's just maintenance, even though it's more than 5,000. So, Fund 34 is for purchase of anything 5,000 or more that needs to be capitalized and tracked on our depreciation list. And so, even though this is, it's probably, I don't know, we'll have to think about it. We might want to move that over to just some maintenance line item because it's not really capital equipment.
okay.
It's just an expensive maintenance item. And so, I'm going to just mark that down too.
Because
Okay. Just so everyone's aware, the old Spanish Trail Arena budget is always a tough one. So, anyway, all right. Moving on to inventory.
okay.
You want to go over inventory request?
So this one is also higher, and it's because the computers are on here, which is $4,750. And this came from Matt. All of our stuff is old and needs to be updated. So that would be, I need a new monitor. I'm using a really old laptop right now. It's very temperamental. A new desktop for Greg. One of my techs is a new desktop, and then the OSA file needs to be updated. We have a printer that needs to be replaced, and it's a ledger size printer. And then a new compressor. And then the other big thing that's expensive on here, we got tagged on our safety inspection for not having any gasoline or aerosol safety cabinets. So there's, just for the arena portion of this would include 3 gasoline, or here, 1 gasoline safety cabinet and 2 aerosol safety cabinets. And it also includes gasoline safety cans.
Okay, so will you go back in later and just create one of those worksheets and itemize it out for me?
Yeah. And there's also our commercial refrigerator broke. It actually started to catch fire. I caught it in the middle of the night. Something told me to, I don't even know what I got on that, but something told me to come check on it, and I checked on it, and yeah, it took a kaput. So we need to get a new commercial refrigerator. So I budgeted in for that. I'm thinking I might have some money left in some other accounts. I would like to buy it this year, and I'm hoping I can remove that next year.
All right. Well, let's touch base on that. So is there anything in this list that's 5,000 or more by itself?
By itself,
Yeah.
the refrigerator could possibly be 5,000.
All right. So if it is, then it can't come out of this budget. It'd have to go and come out of 34.
I
But,
found one. It's like $4,783.
All right. Well,
It's kind of,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a hard line, 5,000 or more. So if it's close but doesn't make it, then we're still consider it inventory. Okay, but yeah, if you could just go in and make a little worksheet and itemize all these things out so I can see what they are easier.
Okay.
All right, and then on ball fields, we got a edger,
And
more,
then the safety
and then
cabinet,
more fire.
yep,
Okay.
and aerosol safety cabinet. It's
Then for-
measure, a gasoline safety cabinet, an aerosol safety cabinet, one safety gasoline can, and then a diesel safety can.
All right. Okay, then in the schooling, looks like mostly just CPR and first aid.
Yeah. And then I just put, in years past, I've always just put registration fees aside for myself and Greg
Registration for what?
for classes if a course comes up. Like last year, I had the registration because I went to trying to get that shooting range built, just so I had some money aside for that. The years before, Greg and I went to the active shooter training, just so that way we had money available.
All right, so it's for training, registration for training. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, without even, addressing anything having to do really with salary and benefits increases, let me just see. So we're $71,777 more than 2021. And, most of that is maintenance backlog. So, like I say, it's a pretty substantial increase. Not saying it's not justified, but depending on how things shake out, like, again, with the general fund's bottom line, we might have to come back, Angie, and prioritize some of this stuff and cut some of it out.
Oh, I understand.
Okay. And now I'll turn it over for questions, comments, etc. Are your eyes all glazed over? Isn't budgeting
I'm
fun?
following along. I think Angie's doing a great job. It's like you
Yeah.
said, Chris, it's a tough budget to get through with those things. It's a big item. So good job, Angie.
Yeah, and I really, I appreciate, Angie, you putting all these notes in and being so prepared. It's always good, when I ask why these numbers are the way they are, that you can answer that question. So I appreciate that.
Why everybody's here, there is a couple things that I would just like to throw out that are projects here that I don't have numbers for yet, but are issues on the property that will be high priority items that we need to get taken care of. And one is the south boundary at the ball fields. There's a culvert issue on our property, like on the very edge of our property line, that inhibits us putting our fence up. I'm working with Christina Sloan and the planning department right now. We haven't come up to a resolution on it, but if it falls back on us, I will need some money to get the culvert and the drainage fixed. But I don't even have a rough number or who that's going to land on yet as far as that. And then from our inspection report from our fire inspection this year, I am being advised that we do need to put in a whole new fire system into the arena, whether it's something we do now or whether it's something we start maybe a possible savings account for and we limp this along over the next couple of years. But I did want to put those two things out there.
Okay. And so, yeah, one of the things, also that we need to address later in the budgeting process is all the, the true capital requests. And so if you could, obviously put that list together, Angie. And then like I said, near the end of the budgeting process, we'll have a better idea of what our bottom line's looking like. And then we'll take a look at all the different capital requests and try to figure out, given what our bottom line's looking like, what we can afford and what we're going to prioritize out of all these capital requests. And so, yeah, if you could put that list together, Angie, and get it off to me. And, even if it's something that may need to be, like a whole new fire suppression system is going to be very expensive. And so, if you could put that all down, and then prioritize it as we have in the past.
Yeah. And the thing with the fire suppression, I don't know if this is something we want to take to commission or not, or maybe even reach out to our local fire department. The one thing that we do need to narrow down is if we want a dry system or if we would like to put in another glycerin system. Putting in another glycerin system would be cheaper right off the bat, but we would have that high recharge every, I think it's every 5 years. We just paid it, and it was like $8,000 just for glycerin. So.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess it depends. Just you have to do the math. But anyway, maybe list out some options. It sounds like something we'd probably have to save up for. Yeah. But knowing it's coming, we can set aside some money and start saving it up and just build that balance in capital projects so that when it comes time to do it, we'll have the money and we won't have to cough it up all in 1 year.
Okay.
Any other questions on the Old Spanish Trail Arena budget? Okay, so we'll close out then with the easy one, which is Mallory and my budget for the commission admin. Not the commission, but the commission admin. Okay. Okay, for the commission administrator's office, subscriptions and memberships. Right now, the only thing we really have going is subscription for the Times Independent. So I dropped that down. I can't really think of any other subscription I would go for. In the past, we've kind of paid some of the commission's subscriptions. Like in 2020, we paid the Chamber of Commerce out of this budget, but that really should go to the commission's budget. Public notices, I just put in an average. And it kind of depends on what's going on and what we need to notice. But this is where we notice all the ordinances that get passed, et cetera. I guess I'll try to evaluate if this needs to go down because of our new policy where we don't necessarily have to advertise some things in the TI. I mean, it's my preference that we continue to advertise in the TI these legal notices if we can. And so the intention really was just to give ourselves the option to just be compliant with statute only. But, conceivably, this could drop. And this is based on a 5-year average amount.
So Chris, if that's a 5-year average, but 2019 and 2020 are only half that, that means it was much higher in the previous 3 years?
Yeah, and again, it depends on what's going on. And so I think probably these big numbers that are jacking it up were because of the change in form of government noticing. And so that might have skewed it. And so it really depends, like is there anything that we're anticipating that we need to advertise for workshops or anything like that? If not, we could probably drop this down to more like $750. I never, it's kind of like, it's hard to predict exactly what the commission's going to want to do with certain, whatever, comes along. But I think $750 would cover just the regular legal notices. $1,500 would be more an average that's based on, some other noticing need. So if we can't think of anything, and it kind of relates more to what the commission might be wanting to do.
No, I don't have any strong feelings about it, and it's a relatively small number, so I was just.
Well, yeah, I'll just put it down to $750 because I can't think of anything actually that would be like the study committee for the change in form of government or anything. And if we have to, we can just amend it up if something pops up or use commission's discretionary or something. Then travel, this is just covering, obviously in the last few years, we haven't done much. So this would be contingency for if we start going to conferences again, Mallory and I. And I mean, in the past, Ruth's been the only one that would travel, but now, Mallory and I both would probably go. But again, it's hard to say what COVID's going to be like. A lot of things are heading back to happening in person. And I actually have some GRAMA appeals at the state level that I know I'm going to probably have to go up to Salt Lake for in January, unfortunately, unless they're resolved before then. So I know I do have a trip just for that. So anyway, just contingency for that. Office supplies and expenses are a 5-year average. Equipment maintenance, I dropped that way down because we gave our fancy copier over to the planning and zoning office. We've pretty much gone paperless. This is how I want us to be. So we traded out the little copy printer that P&Z had and gave them our big fancy one. So that's why that dropped down. Then fuel, to cover fuel costs for travel. Then Mallory requested $1,000 for potential of purchasing some event management software to help us with our special event tracking. Cell phone is 2 data plans for Mallory and I. Inventory is just based on Matt's schedule for replacing 2 desktops and 1 laptop. Any questions on commission admin budget? Okay. Let's see. So I never heard from John, so I guess I'm just going to officially postpone the recorders into the future whenever I can schedule with him. And I think that does it. Are there any other topics of discussion or future considerations? Okay, thank you everybody. Appreciate it. It is 11:16 a.m. and I'm going to close this October 1st Budget Advisory Board meeting. Have
Thanks,
a good
Chris.
day, everybody.
Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.